Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Focus on Liberia. This is the FOL Justice Forum on Focus on Liberia. My name is Dennis Jai, and we are broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. In this edition of Focus on Liberia, let us also remind you that we are live on FM 105.5 in Monrovia. In this edition of Focus on Liberia Justice Forum, we are joined by Councillor Frederick Jayweh. He is the FOL legal analyst, we want to call him. Councillor, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Thank you very much, Dennis. I'm always happy to be on the show.
Thank you so much for joining. We also have joining us from Monrovia Prime FM 105.5, that's FOL reporter Theo Williams. Theo, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dennis. It's a pleasure being with you guys today on the show. It feels good.
Next is the host of the Hour of Politics, Mr. Anthony C.A. Anthony, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
It's good to be here. I want to say thanks to Liberians across the globe who have joined us and continue to join us every show. Let us do this. Let's talk about dual citizenship.
Right. We're going to be talking about dual citizenship. In the background, we have Attorney James Jensen. He is the CEO of 2A Radio and Television. He's going to be joining us shortly. There are some technical issues he's grappling with there. We also are waiting Justice Kabina Jane, who's going to be joining us in this all-important discussion. The new dual citizenship law has been passed, and it is the law of the land, finally. So we're going to be talking about what are some of the rights, privileges, and benefits of this law. What are those associated rights? Every new law comes with some challenges, and there are some problem areas, I suppose. We're going to be looking at those. And since we have dual citizenship law now, what are the implications and what are the next steps? What are some of the things that we're supposed to enjoy as the benefits, and what is the government going to do about it now? Somebody told me, now we have dual citizenship law. Now what? Again, Theo, you are in Monrovia there. I want to start with you. How is this whole dual citizenship law being received? Are people talking about it? What are they saying?
Thank you once again, Dennis. It's a pleasure being on this Wiley Follow platform tonight. Well, since the news broke, the issue of dual citizenship has been a topical issue in this country. And since the news broke, like I said earlier, it's been received in a positive manner by Liberians from all spectrum of the country. And the reaction is just positive. Many Liberians have embraced, the issue of allowing dual citizenship in this country, because it gives all Liberians who left this country some way, somehow, in terms of greener pasture, to have the opportunity again to contribute to the growth and development of this country. So, not to take much of the time, it's been widely received positively across the country.
Thank you so much, Theo. Before we begin the discussion, I want to give the kind of foundation. So, dual citizenship, in the Constitution, we have the citizenship law. In the alien and nationality law, we also have laws regarding that. Councillor Jayweh and Attorney Jensen, why was there a need for a dual citizenship law? What was in the Constitution? Why do we have to do all this fight for a dual citizenship law? Let's start from there. Attorney Jensen, let me start with you.
Are you asking?
Our lawyers. I'm getting feedback here. Let me see what's responsible. Let me start with Councillor Jayweh. Councillor Jayweh?
Yeah.
Why was there a need for a dual citizenship law in Liberia?
Well, it all goes back to the war that was fought in Liberia. It all goes back to Liberian fleeing Liberia with the hope to protect themselves and their families. And in order to do so, some Liberians, or a good number of Liberians outside the Republic of Liberia naturalized in their host country and took up the citizenship. Let's talk about America. A lot of Liberians naturalized in the United States, and they became citizens of the United States of America. Consistent with that, there then existed the Liberian Alien Nationality Law that held that any Liberian who naturalized and took up the citizenship of another country other than Liberia, that Liberian automatically would lose or has lost his citizenship. So the question as to who is actually a Liberian after naturalization became an issue. I understand it started with the late Manston Manley, I understand, and others who thought that Liberians who fled Liberia and started to live in the United States, Europe, and elsewhere were still Liberians and were still committing to their country. And so it was necessary to pass a law that would impact those Liberians, bring them back home, for to say another way, to ensure that they still remain Liberian and support the growth, development, and social activity within the country. And so the fight as to dual citizenship started around whether those Liberians who have naturalized in other countries, whether they could come home. And it also covered whether you could purchase land in Liberia. It also had to do with whether you could build home in Liberia and still while you are a naturalized citizen. So to harmonize the citizenship that Liberian, natural-born Liberian who naturalized outside of Liberia, so the Dual Citizenship Act was then brought into force to ensure that Liberians will be able to return and contribute to Liberia as the need would arise or as it saw fit.
Thank you. Now that brings us to the question. According to the Constitution, who is a Liberian? Before we could get to this, so who is a Liberian? According to the Constitution, and I want to read. Because before you have dual citizenship, you must first have citizenship. So what does the Constitution say about Liberian citizenship? It's in Article 27 and Article 28, and I read, all persons who on the coming into force of this Constitution were lawfully citizens of Liberia shall continue to be Liberian citizens. In order to preserve, foster, and maintain the positive Liberian culture, values, and character, only persons who are Negroes or of Negro descent shall qualify by birth or by naturalization to be citizens of Liberia. The legislature shall, adhering to the above standard, prescribe such other qualifications criteria for the procedures by which naturalization may be obtained. Article 28. Any person, at least one of whose parent was a citizen of Liberia at the time of the person's birth, shall be a citizen of Liberia, provided that any such person shall, upon reaching maturity, renounce any other citizenship acquired by virtue of one parent being a citizen of another country. No citizen of the Republic shall be deprived of citizenship or nationality except as provided by law, and no person shall be denied the right to change citizenship or nationality. Attorney Jensen, based on that constitutional provision, who is a Liberian?
Firstly, let me address the issue of dual citizenship, and I get to that question. Besides the statute, besides the just passed legislation, do we have dual citizenship in Liberia? In my opinion, no, Liberians don't enjoy dual citizenship, despite the passage of the statute or the law that is now considered a statute. What am I saying that? In the first place, to amend the Constitution, that right is squarely given to the people of Liberia, not legislators. Legislators act to consider a proposition, vote on it by two-thirds, and then they allow the people to vote. So this is a proposition that went to the people, and the people voted turning down that proposition. Then it comes back to the legislators, and they pass on the same proposition to consider dual citizenship. So in the context of the highest power, the people's power supersedes the power of the legislature. So the people took a decision turning down that proposition, meaning the voice of the people is higher than the voice of the legislators. So if, let us assume this issue went before the Supreme Court and the Supreme Court was making a decision on it, I mean, everyone can see the logic that the people's voice and the legislative voice, which one supersedes in considering the provision that is in question. Some will say, as long as the legislators have acted, we have a piece of law. So indeed, that's what we have. But my opinion is the people's voice supersedes the voice of the legislator on the same proposition. So what was wrong for the lawmakers to reframe the proposition and go back to the people, since they have already carved the proposition and went to the people and the people turned it down? You said, no, send the people turn it down, we will take a decision for them. Then they took a decision. Is that what going to govern? Now, the Constitution itself, does it consider dual citizenship? It does not. The provision you read, it does not consider dual citizenship.
Attorney, let's stop there because you brought up a very important point. I want us to discuss that before we even go to the question I asked. Mr. C, I saw his eyes popping. He had some questions on what Attorney Jensen just said.
Attorney Jensen, thanks again for joining us. The first thing you said is prior to this new dual citizenship law, you said there was not such thing as dual citizenship in Liberia or for Liberians.
Yes, that's what I said.
Is that your affirmative position?
My affirmative position is that the Constitution does not allow dual citizenship.
All right. I would want to think otherwise. And based on that, I will ask this question. If somebody who has been a Liberian travels outside of the United States and the person obtains a U.S. citizenship, for example, don't you think that person is still enjoying the right of being a Liberian and at the same time a U.S. citizen?
No, that person does not.
So then what is the law that you are basing on to say that person is not enjoying dual citizenship at that point in time?
The immigration law, type 2, the U.S. immigration law and the U.S. laws does not consider dual citizenship. There's a debate, lawyers will speak, but there are countries that enjoy dual citizenship, but those conditions were certified by Congress. So some of those countries, like the island countries, like state like Hawaii and many other states enjoy, but there are legislation to those effect. Now, those who take on U.S. citizenship, the procedural step from the application to the point where you take an oath, the purpose, primary purpose is you denounce all other citizenship, all other prince, all other authority, and you subscribe to the authority of the United States government. So this is a hard fact. There's no way you will tell me that if you you are a citizen of the United States, you will consider yourself a citizen of Liberia likewise. No, there's no way out of that. Now, I have said to other folks before, what is the most prudent thing in the practice of law that would have taken place or in legislation? Like the other countries that I mentioned of in the United States, Liberia, the government, the people of Liberia, the legislators themselves, there's nothing wrong to rub shoulder with Congress for Congress to pass a piece of legislation to allow Liberia, so we have that strong historical tie, to allow Liberia to
Anthony
enjoy
Jensen,
dual citizenship.
may I hold you there? I don't think Congress has any authority to decide Liberian or Liberia's dual citizenship.
Why would
That
you say
the
that?
U.S. government does not have that authority
Why would you say that?
because America is America and America is not Liberia.
Let me say
American
it again.
laws.
Probably you didn't understand it. Let me say this again.
Right. Let's go one step back.
Yeah.
You raised
But before then, I think there is a doubt in his mind. I wish to state that clearly.
Right. Okay. Go ahead.
You are saying that the fact that you took on U.S. citizenship, and because you were a Liberian, that means you are both Liberian and as a United States citizen. Then the question we'll ask you is, why did the people fight to change the Liberian law? Since let's assume by rationalizing your statement, that means there was even no need for anyone to pass any piece of law in Liberia, right?
Because you were a Liberian. They could have acted out of ignorance, James.
No, I mean,
right.
Well, we might go to that, but for the purposes of the clarity, you cannot be a Liberian and United States citizen. The primary purpose for that citizenship and naturalization is for you to denounce wherever you came from and accept America as your citizen.
That is correct. But here is the thing. You raised two issues, Anthony Jensen, before we go to Councillor Jayweh. One, you said before the passage of this, there was no dual citizenship, and even after the passage, there's still no dual citizenship.
Yeah. The second one, opinion, and I strongly believe that the first one is the constitutional argument. The Constitution does not consider dual citizenship. The second one, although the lawmakers are passing, there is law in Liberia, but in actual sense, and we might discuss with detail as we go with the discussion, there is no dual citizenship for any Liberian.
All right. So number one, you are a green card holder in America, a Liberian. You have a child here. That child, by virtue of you being a Liberian, having that child in America, that child is a Liberian. Is that correct?
Get this right. Every child is born. No. Every child is born. No. I get where you're going, but let me clarify that.
Yeah, let me finish. Let me finish. And by virtue of that child being born in America, that child is also an American citizen. So that child holds two citizenship, Liberian citizenship and American citizenship. Is that correct?
No, you're not understanding the law. The law is mute only when it comes to a child. A child that is born, that child remains, even the immigration law of the United States and Liberia, they are very synonymous on that issue. When the child is born to a U.S. parent,
no, I'm talking about Liberian parent.
Okay, let's assume one of the parent is an American or whatever. But the fact the child is born, the fact you're born in the United States here, you enjoy that birthright to be a U.S. citizen.
Right.
But that condition remains, and the condition is by the time you enter, what is the age range? If I'm not mistaken,
21.
21, right? By the time you enter that age range, you make a decision as to which citizenship you take. So in short,
prior to that time, that child enjoys both Liberian citizenship and American citizenship.
That's a conditional issue. That's a conditional issue.
Let's go to Councillor Jayweh on that. So because I was looking at Article 20, but Councillor Jayweh, starting before we get to the point of the second part, Councillor Anthony Jensen is saying prior to the passage of this, Liberia did not recognize, but I believe that Liberia had, if two parents green card holders in America, they have a child here, that child is both American citizen by virtue of American law and Liberian citizen by virtue of Liberian law. So I think that's dual citizenship. Your take?
Attorney Jensen raised two critical issues. One of the issues is whether the current alien and nationality law as passed is in conflict with the Constitution. That's the first issue. The second issue is whether the legislature or the legislator who passed the House and the Senate, who acted to pass the alien nationality law, usurp the responsibility and the power of the people. And then the thing that I would say is that since the Constitution, in fact, in Attorney Jensen's argument, this law attempts to amend the Constitution.
Right.
And by so doing, is violative of the Constitution because it runs contrary to the provision of the Constitution. Now, the legislature, the House, and the Senate, by law, have the right to make laws.
That's correct.
Prior to the alien nationality law that is passed, the act, Liberians that traveled or fled out of Liberia and came to the United States and naturalized had to commit themselves to no other country but the United States.
That's correct.
There's some factual and legal issues surrounding that. If you, as a Liberian who naturalized as a U.S. citizen, there is nothing under the Liberian law that allows for dual citizenship. It's a terminology coined by politicians and people who think that there should be something called dual citizenship.
That's correct.
Let me add, I got a colleague in my office here who is a Gambian. He naturalized in the United States. 2 years ago, he wanted to travel to Gambia, and he decided to go through the UK. He said, well, faster. So when he traveled on his Gambian passport, where he traveled, going to the US, going to the UK, you don't need a visa whatsoever. So he entered the UK and wanted to leave the UK to go to Gambia. To board a plane, the security stopped him and said, how did you enter the UK?
Good.
He said, oh, but I entered the UK because I'm a US citizen. I don't even need to show anything. They said, that's true, but you can't travel out of the UK to Gambia on your Gambian passport. What am I saying? Even though the US government has not said yes or no on whether you are a Liberian, whether you can be a Liberian citizen and a US citizen at the same time, you better not travel out of the USA to Liberia on your Liberian passport.
Thank you so much. Before you continue, let me emphasize that I like the way you brought this case out. And this should be a warning to all Liberians. Don't disgrace yourself. The agent at the port of entry don't get time for all of these discussions we're having. They will treat you if you say you are a US citizen, your information in the system, speak of that. There's nothing in the people's system that say this man is both Liberian and a United States citizen. Sorry for that interjection.
So what I was going to say is that you can naturalize and you can still have a Liberian passport. When you're traveling out of the USA, because the US government has not said that it recognized dual citizenship. So when you travel, your record will be tracked from the passport you use to go out of here to go to Liberia. I have heard Liberians saying that they will rather use a Liberian passport and go to Liberia. When they come back, when they get to Minnesota, New York, Washington, D.C., then they'll present a U.S. passport. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. Because when you return to the United States as a Liberian who claims to have dual citizenship, guess what? With your Liberian passport, if you went on your Liberian passport, when you come back, you have to stay on the alien line. You have created a legal problem for yourself. You better go to Liberia using your Liberian U.S. passport and have yourself come back and stand on the U.S. line to re-enter the country. Even though the U.S. has not raised that, it could become an issue. The second thing is that the legislature, in passing the alien nationality law, is attempting to allow Liberian, or has attempted to allow Liberian to enjoy the Liberian citizenship and remain U.S. naturalized citizen. The U.S. doesn't care for all of that. It doesn't impact the U.S. law until there is an issue before the U.S. court. But the legislature, in making the act, restore those Liberians who naturalized and became citizens. But that does not mean that you can interchangeably use a passport. It doesn't mean that. And that if this act that restored the citizenship of Liberians, it were to be contested at the Supreme Court, there will be a question of whether the legislature acted within the confine of the authority to make laws. So then, if the question is answered in the affirmative, then Liberians who are naturalized and U.S. citizens can go ahead and use the Liberian passport. My advice is use it to go to Nigeria, go to Togo, go to Burundi, go to Rwanda, go to any part of Africa. When you're coming back here, better use your U.S. passport to get back here, because the U.S. has not definitively said that you, as a Liberian, your citizenship has been restored. You can come back from your country using your Liberian passport and enter the U.S.
But Councillor Jayweh, for your permission, moderator, Councillor Jayweh, there's an issue for any Liberian to even use Liberian passport in West Africa. Why am I saying that? If you live from here as a U.S. citizen, the American government is tracking your activities out there. Let us assume you went to the Gambia, or let us assume you left from here, you went to Ghana, you dropped there, and you started to use your Liberian passport. You fly from there, you went to Guinea, or you went to any other country for that matter, and something happens to you there on the basis of you using Liberian passport and not your U.S. passport. The U.S. government will be believing that the fact that you left from here on U.S. passport, you landed in Ghana, that you are still in Ghana. Anything that happened to you in other countries, although the people they are intelligent, they might know, that this person left, he went to Ghana, but he's actually not in Ghana, he had left and gone to some other place. It's possible they're intelligent, they would know that. But for purposes of passport, they will only believe that you left from the US and you went to Ghana. So anything that happened to you wherever you travel on Liberian passport, you're taking a very high risk. So I don't think Liberians should be encouraged to do those things. I know senior officials of government are doing these things. They leave from here, they travel, they go to Ghana. They take Liberian passport, they go to Liberia. When they're coming back, they come right back to Ghana. The day the Ghanaians themselves become very sensitive on these issues, they might just raise an issue about it. You leave from you go to Ghana, get record on you, your arrival say U.S. citizen. Then you leave it from there to pick up to go to Liberia, and you take a Liberian passport and go. So these are all not, in the face of the law, it's not right.
Thank you.
Jensen want to enjoy all others. I want to enjoy citizenship for 10 more countries. The idea is good, but the procedural steps are wrong.
Thank you. The other issue you raised about the power of the legislators to make this change, that is, and the change that they made, they are amending the alien and nationality law. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Not because that proposition failed. So, Councillor Jayweh, you were speaking to that. Go ahead.
We will not know whether something is wrong or is not wrong until it gets to the Supreme Court. And let me say,
Jayweh, you as a lawyer, you have a right to interpret, to say what the law is, except that the final say is not with you.
So what I'm saying is that, my view is that the alien nationality law was amended as per the authority of the House and the Senate. But as to its interpretation and application, it will be left with once it is challenged. And it will be challenged soon. The reason why I say that, there are Liberians who naturalize in the United States, who are lawyers, who are in Liberia currently, who applied to the Supreme Court to be admitted to the bar.
Okay.
The Supreme Court could refuse.
Right.
If the Supreme Court consider that the alien and nationality law as passed infringes upon the constitutional provision of citizenship, that person could be denied an admission as consular law. But again, the authority to make law is rested in the House and the Senate. If the issue is not raised, the Supreme Court will not decide. If the issue is raised, the Supreme Court will have to decide. The idea of we having dual citizenship is amongst Liberians, because there is no U.S. case that says you can be a Ghanaian American. You can be a Ghanaian and a Liberian at the same time. Or a U.S. citizen at the same time, or a Liberian citizen and a U.S. citizen at the same time. It is our country allowing us to return home under the new alien nationality law to function as a Liberian with some restrictions. Until that law, until the U.S. passes a law and says American, Liberian, American,
Right.
you are not Liberian American. You are U.S. citizen. When you're here, you are US.
Right. I like that.
When you take the oath, you take the oath to say against all other countries.
Right.
When you sign, when you fill out the application, you say, I will decide to fill out, take an arm for the U.S. against all other countries.
Right.
I will promote the policy and the laws of the U.S. So again, my advice as a lawyer is that it's better to go pay, I think it's $250 or $270, pay for your $270 to get your American of your Liberian visa to go to Liberia using your U.S. passport if you have it, because when you get there, they don't care for your blue book anyway. But you'll be able to come back here because the U.S. will track your security activity. I went to Nigeria many times at the ECOWAS code. Guess what? One day when I came back, they took my passport and said, "Are you a Nigerian or are you a U.S. citizen?" And I said, "No." The officer, the custom officer, opened my suitcase and took all of my clothes out piece by piece and asked me, "What do you go to Nigeria very frequently? Why do you go there?" So I said, "I'm a lawyer. I practice before the ECOWAS Community Court of Justice. Can you convince me that you are a lawyer and you practice before the ECOWAS Court?" I took her the writ of summons. I took her the notice of assignment. He asked me to show him a copy of the pleading before they allow me in. So it's a thing to be very careful with.
Right.
It's a thing
Thank you. Let me bring in Theo. Theo.
Yes, thank you again, Dan. It's a great conversation. And two quick questions for both Councillor Jayweh and Anthony Jensen. Let me begin with Councillor Jayweh. You talked about the issue of traveling with two passports not being necessary. So my question to him is, then what determines or constitutes one's dual citizenship if and only if you perhaps probably not allow travel with
okay.
Oh, something happened to your voice, Theo. We lost you.
Can I come back?
Yeah, I think the final portion of his question was if one cannot interchangeably use two passports that they are holding in their hands.
What constitutes or what determines one's dual citizenship? That is for Councillor Jayweh. And the next one is for Anthony Jensen. What are the conditions, according to your assertions, regarding a child being born in America, given the fact that both parents are Liberians, even though they have all whole green cards? What are those conditions?
So let me begin by answering your first question. Under the U.S. law, there is nothing called dual citizen. We do not have Liberians who are citizens of the United States as citizens of the United States. Liberians who are covered by the alien nationality law that consider themselves dual citizens are not dual citizens. They are being allowed to return to the country and have all legal rights except for the restrictions that contain in the alien nationality law. So to travel is to travel out of the United States if you know that you are a U.S. citizen. It is advisable to send your passport, your U.S. passport, to the Liberian embassy to get your visa in it and travel to Liberia using your U.S. passport. Because when you return, if you ever use your Liberian passport from the United States and you are a U.S. citizen to go to Liberia, they don't care how you leave the country. When you're coming back, the U.S. will be questioning, where have you been? And if you can't show where you have been and all your passport is a Liberian passport, like the U.S. government had the immigration law require what they call expedited exclusion. At the port of entry, they could say, you're not coming in here.
Right.
You don't want that to happen to you if you are a U.S. citizen that has a U.S. passport to say, because your country doesn't care anymore whether you have a U.S. passport. So why don't you go pay the $270? Because a lot of Liberians saying, oh, I will no longer pay $250 for my visa because I'm a Liberian citizen. That's true. It's as to your country. Your return, are you going to, if you have your Liberian passport that you want to Liberia with, when you return, all the security stamps and things will be, the checkpoint stamp will be stamped in it. When you come, are you going to stand on the U.S. citizenship line? And what will you show to determine that you left the United States? Is it your Liberian passport? Could the U.S. government make you an example and say, you have renounced your U.S. citizenship, so go back to Liberia? Because you don't want to pay $250?
Councillor Jayweh, the easier way I'm understanding why you and Attorney Jensen saying is that you cannot travel as a citizen of America and at the same time as a Liberian. Is that what I'm getting from you?
Correct. You can in the African setting. If I return to Liberia, I have a case at the ECOWAS court. I will use my Liberian passport, go to Abuja, Nigeria. I will participate in a trial there. I will return to Liberia using my ECOWAS passport. When entering from leaving the United States to Liberia, if I'm a U.S. citizen, I will go ahead and use my U.S. passport with my visa in it, because when I return, I will want to stay on the U.S. line. I want to go through my passport being checked, because they don't just let you in. They take a passport from you and scan it. That indicates to them security-wise where you've been. If you don't have that, they could exclude you. Mind you, the U.S. immigration law provides that you can, on an expedited proceeding, you can be excluded at the entrance. Is your dual citizenship going out of control, or will you want to engage in the fact that you will hire a U.S. lawyer to fight that case when you are given the U.S. government reason to believe that you're no longer a U.S. citizen?
Thank you.
So then that brings me to this question, Dennis. So this whole idea of dual citizenship that is being celebrated now, from what I'm getting from you, is more like not applicable at all, because you want to enjoy the rights for both countries. That's why you want to be a dual citizenship. And one of those rights is the freedom to travel as a Liberian, for example, and as an American citizen at the same time if one holds both citizenship. But that is not applicable at all. So isn't that nothing to celebrate here? Is that what I'm getting from you, especially on the issue of traveling?
So you say celebrate with your country. Liberia allow you to be called something called dual citizen.
Okay.
Play around Liberia with it, not in the United States, because when you get back, mind you, if there is an issue of law, if the immigration should raise the issue of deporting you, then they will go back to your oath.
Right.
They will go back to when you not.
And that would be a very serious criminal.
It becomes an issue because you are now misrepresenting yourself to the United States. Again, pay your $270. Get your Liberian visa. Put it inside your American passport. Go to Liberia. When you're coming back, come back with it. Play around West Africa with your Liberian, what you call it, ECOWAS passport. Other than that, there is nothing under the U.S. law that say that when you return, when you come to Minnesota, because I used to come back to the United States through Minnesota, whether they will allow you to show your Liberian passport and say, I'm coming from Nigeria. They say, okay, but then you don't belong in the line. Why don't you go on the alien line? When you get on the alien line, you say, oh, okay. How did you leave this country?
Right.
The decision is at the border.
So Mr. C, citizenship is enjoyed in the country you are citizen for, right? So just not in the air. So for instance, it's like when you are traveling, should you present this passport and that other passport based on your own. Let's say you arrive in Amsterdam, you present US. You get to France, you present Liberian. You get to it wouldn't work that way. So the purpose of the dual citizenship is to enjoy the rights and privileges
At
in
home.
the country where you are citizen.
But Dennis, you enjoy it in the air. If you are traveling as an American, getting on that plane,
So
you're enjoying the
travel
ride
as
of
an
flying as an
American.
American. So you enjoy it too in the air.
No, travel as an American. You can travel as both, right?
So
I
There
agree.
are some serious issues, and we need to say here because many persons could be listening to us here. As we approach 2023 elections, there are Liberians. Let me not say Liberians. Liberian naturalized U.S. citizens who migrated or were born in Liberia, and some of them are thinking of participating into the elections. They want to go to Liberia and vote, come to the United States and vote. These activities are wrong. All of those who are contemplating on those things, they must be aware of the consequences. There are actions that when you take, you automatically telling the United States government that you are denouncing the naturalized decision that you made earlier. Like Jayweh said, the people don't care, and that's where we deceive ourselves. If you're not in trouble, you think all is well with you. The people know exactly when you take certain actions. Every Liberian that live from here, I'm very sure you'll be monitored. So if you left from here, you went and took part into the politics. You did all you wanted to do and everything. The record is there. The people aren't going to ask you questions, but it is possible that when you're coming back, maybe your suitcase is being scanned, they found 2 passports in there. Then they want to know where the 2 passports are coming from. For that purpose, they go to open your suitcase and they saw the 2 passports. Maybe you left from here, you went to stop Ghana, you travel on the other side. So there's a whole lot of risk people take. Some of us who are a little bit mindful,
Anthony Jensen,
doing that.
Anthony Jensen, may I interject here? To what you're saying, if a naturalized American citizen who enjoys Liberian citizenship too, based on the dual citizenship law, were to go to Liberia and might have voted in a Liberian election, and the U.S. government gets any such information, upon the person return to the U.S., even though that person traveled there as a U.S. citizen and returning as a U.S. citizen, but based on the fact that that person participated in the election in Liberia, if they search your luggage and see 2 passports, you holding Liberian passport and acted or participated in an election as a Liberian citizen, automatically you are gone against the oath that you took as a U.S. citizen, and they can penalize you. Is that what you are saying?
That's what I'm saying. If you do that, you are like denouncing. There are things that you should not do. You can't be a U.S. citizen and go and participate in another country's election, participate into that election. Our immigration law professor told us that when you take U.S. citizenship, there are major reasons why people do these things. You want to enjoy those basic rights that other countries don't have. So then the American people, if you are a U.S. citizen, they're expecting you to participate in their elections and not into the elections of other countries. They're not going to be telling you all of these things, but I'm just telling you because I have had some lengthy discussion on some of these matters. I'm not saying it for a bluff. I'm saying it to guide some of those people who are out there who want to take these chances. All right. So in short, passports, activities. You go to Liberia, people are going to respect you. They're going to take you as who you are. Liberia not going to denounce you. But there are certain things you just can't do. Even if the Liberian government were more careful about the decision that people take here, they will be careful as to how you participate in their activities. Remind you now, we're not talking about election laws, but there are election laws that even speak on those things. So can someone who is a U.S. citizen, except by this quote-unquote statute that's being considered, but in the face of the electoral laws, and they will have to go through all of these things and change some of those things, and don't know what to do and what not to do. But generally, as to the brother was asking, there are things you can do that will resemble dual citizenship. So, such as taking part into election, becoming a minister in the government there, and becoming some public officials in there. And when you are here, you should really be a U.S. citizen. All right. So people you will not hear the American government speaking about those things very easily. But the day you find yourself in conflict, that's the time you know exactly what America does. You must actually be.
And James, what you are saying may be true, but I'm looking at, how effective has the U.S. government been in enforcing that which you are talking about? Because there are known Liberian citizens that we also know who exercise their right as U.S. citizens who have participated in Liberian election. People we know, right? Yeah. And some of them have even admitted that, hey, I am this, but the very American, to their very knowledge, have not gone against any such person.
Yeah. There are reasons, people consider a lot of privacy issues. And I will also think that Liberia is well situated. And this is why I said earlier, if our officials are very serious about this thing, they could get, like for Biden administration, they'll have a very good, easy ride. They will have a very good document they could rely on.
Can I just add? I think like 3 or 4 years ago, some Gambians, American, they left from here when Yahya Jammeh was president of Gambia. They staged a coup. Some of them are former military people. And then two of those Gambian citizens, Gambian American as they call themselves, came back to the United States using the U.S. passport. They were placed on an indictment for prosecution.
Right.
The U.S. government would not ask you whether you voted in Liberia in 2023 for Joseph Boakai or for Cummings or for Jayweh, because it does not impact their national security and economic interest.
Right.
So they will not do anything about it. They will not say anything. But you play a coup here as a Liberian American, go to Liberia and stage a coup against Jayweh and let the coup fail and think that
but Charles Taylor's son is an example, right? Charles Taylor's son, Chucky Taylor.
Oh yeah. So
he was from here. He was a U.S. citizen. He went to Liberia. He did a lot of stuff there. He came here. They arrested him. He's serving sentence.
So what it is that as long as it doesn't impact the U.S. security and economic interest, the U.S. will not do anything about it. But when you raise the flag higher than what it is, and you enter into problem, then it will go to what did he do in Liberia?
You will find all your record behind you.
As a member of the ANC, was he a member of the CDC? Was he a member of the Unity Party? Did he vote in the election? Did he stage a military coup? They will prosecute you here under U.S. law as a U.S. citizen.
Definitely.
No, that is correct. And as no matter what citizenship you have, you are naturalized here. The U.S. consider you in any other country as a foreign. So even being here as a U.S. citizen and supporting campaigns, if there is any issue why they need to get involved, and you are giving money to a foreign agency, that's how they will call it.
Yeah.
They don't, because they don't recognize you as a dual citizen. They only see you as an American citizen. Yeah. So whatever you do in a foreign land is going to be flagged. And if that is against their interests or against their rules here, you'll get in trouble.
So Dennis, before we move to the next issue, to conclude on this, the question here now is, how then can Liberians who hold U.S. citizenship enjoy the rights of both countries, if possible, at the same time with no issues?
I gave you one proposition already, right here, and it looked like a difficult thing, but it's not difficult. I mean, I can give you a lot of examples. There are countries here. There are countries that there are legislation. If you go to the immigration law, I think Title 1401, there's a whole lot of stuff on citizenship. There are countries that enjoy dual citizenship under the United States law. those countries, there are legislation, and those legislation are very explicit. It tells you from what period to what period that those people of those countries can enjoy dual citizenship. So in short, what I'm saying to you here, the Liberian government, that's why Liberians should always think about voting in credible people. There must be people who will approach Congress, give Congress the historical background of Liberia, and begin to challenge even the status quo. Joe Biden, for example, if you have a very good foreign minister in this country, and you have good missions, people who are in like the United Nations, in those good missions sitting right in New York, rubbing shoulders with senior officials here, they could pass one-page document. Liberia, because dual citizenship there must be an authorization from both countries, in my view. So Liberia has the idea already, and Liberians are eager for this thing. But what is wrong on approaching Congress here? Talk to these people here. Or let George will approach Joe, but right now Joe is going to come to the United States.
Thank you.
Probably this could be one of the issues that he would say, no, Mr. President, this is one issue we wanted to do for us. We really, giving the historical background.
Thank you, Atty. Jensen. I guess what you are saying is in the case of visa, if you are a U.S. citizen, you can travel to England. I went there many times, right? I just pick up my U.S. passport, got my ticket, I'm on the plane, and I can return the same way because there is an agreement between those two countries.
Right.
Yeah, their citizens should enjoy visa entry rights into both countries. So I believe what I'm understanding from you is the Liberian government can approach the U.S. government. Look, on the issue of dual citizenship, we want Liberians to enjoy all rights given to U.S. citizens at the same time enjoy that in Liberia. If that is granted, then we can enjoy the rights of full citizenship. Full dual citizenship.
Then you will say you are dual citizen. Let me just add before we pass. Ambassador Gibson. I think her name is Martha Gibson.
Martha Gibson?
No, she was at the Liberian embassy for some time. I don't remember her first name. But President Weah appointed her as Liberian ambassador to the United States. She was rejected. The U.S. government said, no, she's our citizen. She cannot be ambassador in her own country. So what did Weah then do? They sent her to the UK. She currently the ambassador in the UK. So in as much as the U.S. doesn't speak about it, Liberians can enjoy their quote-unquote dual citizenship when they are in Liberia, stay out of sensitive things that will create a problem that will raise American legal security interests and economic interests. Stay out of supporting, for example, if there were a rebel group in Liberia, stay out of raising money as a Liberian belonging to that group to overthrow the government. Because you are acting as a U.S. citizen, that's how the U.S. government will see you. When you get to Liberia, you want to vote, okay, go ahead, you vote in your election if you wanted to do that. But when the issue comes about, then you have an issue as to whether or not you are an alien, a citizen of the United States, voting in an alien country. Can you vote? Yes, you can vote. That's between you and your Liberian government.
Thank you. Now,
before we pass,
whoever pass.
No, but I know we'll pass. But there's something important you raised here about the lawmakers having the right to amend the statute. That is of no doubt. They have the right to amend any statute. It is their creation. It doesn't matter whether they pass it, the current legislature pass it or not. But what is important and what we emphasize here is the current nationality law of Liberia that is being amended is in violation of the Constitution. They incited dual citizenship in that amendment. And by that standard, it's in violation of the Constitution. And we strongly believe that that amendment is void until the right thing is done. Secondly, I said it, the voice of the people is paramount. It supersedes the decision or the voice of the legislators.
And that's the point I differ with you on, right? Because not because a proposition doesn't pass, that the proposition was on Article 28 of the Liberian Constitution.
Okay.
This one that has been passed now is on the alien and nationality law. The two are different.
The text amendment.
What is the text? What is the text saying?
Attorney Jensen,
Yeah.
Can I just come in?
Mhm.
You cannot use statute to amend the constitution.
Right.
So what Attorney Jensen
Jensen.
is saying, I will reserve a conclusion until the matter gets to the Supreme Court. And I can assure you, if the Supreme Court wants to be consistent with interpreting and application of the Supreme Court, the Constitution, those who are U.S. citizens who are now claiming that they are dual citizens may not be admitted as consular law before the Supreme Court. The justices who say that the statute cannot amend the Constitution, the best thing to do is to set up a system to have a referendum
Right.
submitted to the people and let the people amend because the Constitution, part of the Constitution states saying that when you reach your majority, you must deny the citizenship of that country.
And that's why I don't agree, right? Because that statute did not amend the Constitution. There's nothing in that Constitution that the statute changed, right?
The statute is providing, and we don't have the time here. I read the amended statute, and if you go to that statute, you look at the 2 pages. The most cardinal words in there is allowing people to enjoy those who have Liberian parents or born here, is what they play with to give people the right to enjoy dual citizenship. Now, the Constitution itself is not saying that. The Constitution says by the time you reach age 21, you must make that decision whether you are
actually, James, is age 18. I think I said 21 earlier.
Okay, fine. I did.
It's
age 18. That. I
But
age 23. No, it's age 23. It's age 23, right?
You do it at 21, but you can't do it after 25.
Yeah.
Okay. Whatever the number is. So that's the issue. So you cannot, even by application of law, the text, if you don't even just say, okay, this is dual citizenship, but the intent of the framers is in violation of the Constitution. The Constitution does not allow dual citizenship, so you cannot be telling. Liberians all over the world now thinking say dual citizenship exists. So it's good that you people are having a kind of a debate, so that people can begin to think twice as to what the law says.
For the Supreme Court.
Right, but before the Supreme Court, the Constitution, because I think where we are mistaken most of the time is Article 27 and 28. It is easier to think that it is Article 28 alone that is defining citizenship, but that is not true. Okay, so what they did was to take out those restrictions, those things that stop you from becoming a Liberian citizen. If you did X, Y, Z, they are saying these things no longer exist. How does that violate the Constitution?
We do not have the amended statute here.
I got a statute with me.
I got it.
Let me see.
We have a James.
Here is where people confuse these things more. And Councillor and Anthony, you can help me. Because Liberian citizenship, that's what I was asking from the beginning. Who is a Liberian citizen by Constitution? And here is my take, so you can take a look. Number one, all persons on coming into force of this Constitution were lawful citizens of Liberia shall continue to be lawful Liberian citizens. So for me, before 1986, I was a citizen, so that covered me. I'm a citizen. Number two, in order to preserve, foster, and maintain the positive Liberian culture, values, and character, only persons who are Negro or of Negro descent shall qualify by birth or naturalization to be the citizen of Liberia. To me, this means whoever is born in Liberia to parents of Negro descent is a Liberian. No, 28, Article 28 is Article 28. This is where I believe people get it wrong. It says any person, at least one of whose parent was citizen of Liberia at the time of the person's birth, shall be a citizen of Liberia, provided that any such person shall, upon reaching maturity, renounce any other citizenship acquired by virtue of one parent. This is not talking about natural born Liberian. This is talking about Liberians who are born to one foreign parent and one Liberian parent outside the country.
Dennis, there is ambiguity in there. If you go to 20.1 of the statute, you happy to upload it?
Yeah, 20.1.
Okay. You see, 20.1 it says the following shall be citizens of Liberia at birth. A, a person who is a Negro or of Negro descent born in Liberia and subject to the jurisdiction thereof. This is directly from the Constitution of Liberia. You just read it. From these wordings are from
Article 28.
27. All right.
Okay.
So B to this, the following shall be citizen of Liberia at birth. B, a person born outside Liberia, whose father was born a citizen of Liberia. First condition, a person born outside Liberia, whose father was born a citizen of Liberia, is a citizen of Liberia. A person born outside Liberia, whose father was a citizen of Liberia at the time of the birth of the such child, and that person is a citizen of Liberia. And the last one is a person born outside of Liberia whose father had resided in Liberia prior to the birth of such child. So you asking who is a citizen of Liberia? The answer is right here. These conditions are met to certify the provision of the Constitution. The ambiguity that you're talking about in Article 27 and 28, the lawmakers thought to provide these provisions in the Constitution. Now, let me say too that all of these provisions you see here, they are similarity with very close similarity to that of the Alien and Nationality Law of the United States. So to play with these words, you haven't done anything good for Liberians. As we all have said, there's absolute, when you take certain decisions, like you say, let the people vote. Those lawyers who are around the president, and I'm clear on that, they all are deceiving the people. Why? Because you advise first and foremost that the people should go for referendum. They carve a preposition, they went for referendum on the very same issue. The people took a decision. They came back. Then you said no. Senate said no. We're going to take our own decision on this on behalf of the people. You can't do that for God in heaven's sake. I mean, sometimes we don't want to put out the hard words.
Attorney Jensen, I don't know why you are saying that. Let's talk about what is not done properly and what is.
Well, some of the things, those are things are not done properly. So, accept your interpretation of what is not done properly.
Can I come in? Prior to this act, the Jallo Teach case came about.
Yeah.
There was an application before the Supreme Court contesting the constitutionality of Liberians automatically losing their citizenship.
Mm-hmm.
In order for the legislature in their wisdom to resolve the problem of Liberians who naturalize outside of Liberia, they thought to pass the amendment to the Alien and Nationality Act. Mm-hmm. If you remember, Teach applied to be counselor at law at the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court rejected him prior to the law. The Supreme Court was saying then that Teach could not already have represented himself before the Supreme Court as a U.S. citizen, and then wish to be admitted to the Supreme Court bar as a citizen, as a counselor at law. So in order, and there are almost 1 million Liberians out of the country who might have naturalized in other countries, including the United States. So the legislature is assisting to restore the citizenship of those Liberians. The act that part of the Constitution I put up, it presupposes that you were born in Liberia and you did not take up citizenship anywhere else.
Right.
That's the presupposition. But if you took up citizenship of the United States and the act, the 22.1, 22.2 to 22.4, when it was still in place, you automatically lost your citizenship.
Right.
That's correct.
So the legislature said, in order to cure that, we will restore the citizenship of all Liberians who naturalized all around, including the United States.
But that's a violation. That's a violation, Mr. Jayweh, because in the Constitution it says, do not deny anyone the opportunity to renounce his or her citizenship or take on another nationality. It is clearly stated in the Constitution.
I'm only saying that the legislature tried to cure the problem of Liberians who naturalize in foreign countries. Because if the due process component of the law, mind you, when Jallo applied to file a petition before the Supreme Court, he raised those issues of his constitutional right as a citizen of Liberia being taken away automatically without due process of law. The Supreme Court only addressed the due process portion. It left the law standing. So the Supreme Court, what the legislature did, first the government tried to put it into a referendum to ensure that it could become a constitutional provision. That failed. So the government came back and said, okay, then we'll have the legislature, the House and the Senate, to enact a statute to amend section, the alien nationality law, which has been done. The question is, can Liberians using this alien nationality law proceed to enter into doing other things as Liberians when this statute could appear to run contrary, and I'm saying could appear to run contrary because the Supreme Court will need to interpret that. Until the Supreme Court interprets that, it remains the law of the land. Liberians are now Liberian citizens under the Liberian law. Liberians are now able to own, buy, and purchase and own land in Liberia. But you know, the other thing that caught my attention, I don't know whether we get there or I'm getting ahead myself, is the restrictions.
Right. So let's go straight to the restrictions.
Yeah.
Since
so
for Anthony Jensen, the whole thing is illegal. But let's look at the restrictions alone.
I think for me, I think it's illegal. I think it's legal until it is challenged. I don't think it's illegal. I think it's legal until it is challenged before the Supreme Court.
And I think otherwise. I think the restrictions are unconstitutional. But let me hear your side.
Oh, yeah, no. I'm not talking about restriction. I'm talking about the act is a line like doing it's legal. The restriction are coming to it. I think there's some problem there.
My position is the lawmaker had no right to do what they did.
So yeah, let's go to the restriction.
Yeah, we see that there are restrictions on. We don't have to even be specific. Defense minister,
Minister of Finance,
finance minister, and also governor of the National Bank. And then elected position: president, vice president, senator, representative. You say that wrong, contrary to the Constitution.
So when you restore the citizenship.
Councillor Jayweh, before you continue,
okay,
are there actually restriction in the true sense of the restriction when there is a window that is to allow anybody with interest? Will you consider that as restriction?
First thing, the too restrictive portion of the Alien Nationality Act, which I refer to as "Don't Touch Our Job" restriction. They don't belong in the act at all. They don't belong in the act at all. Because
I'm not sure you're answering my question. So this is what they say.
Let him give his take first, Mr. C.
I'm saying, in order, when you restore the citizenship of all Liberians who naturalize everywhere, including the United States, you do not have the authority, the legal authority, to tell those Liberians what position they can occupy, what election they can run in, and they cannot run in. Because, take for example, if those Liberians went back and challenged the restriction here, it will fall. The Supreme Court will strike it down because you can't say they are Liberian, but you can't say that. They are either not Liberian, they are Liberian with all of the rights and privileges, or they are not.
But don't you think there's a reason why that board you mentioned is being placed in there?
Oh, it's to protect people who want to run to be senators. I call it, don't touch my job.
Right. Why don't you think the board is because they pick up another citizenship?
Again, if we went back, the Liberian, almost 99.9% Liberian who naturalized in the United States, naturalized at the advantage of their and the family security protection, and naturalized based upon in compliance with the U.S. law. Before the war, how many Liberians were in the United States?
Councillor Jayweh, my point here is that if a Liberian picks up another citizenship, technically speaking, that Liberian puts himself, for example, in a different category. So the way the law is written, because you put yourself in a category, all right, if you want to be president, all right, you can be. You just have to renounce your other citizenship, then you can be. You place yourself in a category or turning another citizenship. So if you want to enjoy that, exclusive right as a Liberian citizen to run for office, do X, Y, Z, and then you will enjoy that. Should we now hold that Liberian who made that decision accountable for becoming another citizen?
Well, I look at it. I mean, the two restriction in a different way. I look at it as a trap for people who want to run to be not only Liberian who naturalize, who now not running to be president. But take Cummings for example. It's a naturalized citizen. Take President Weah for example. It's a naturalized citizen.
Okay. Are you saying this as a matter of fact?
Mr. Cummings has a video where he said, "I'm a U.S. citizen." Okay. So that's as simple as that. Mr. Weah passport have been before the election were floating all around that way.
Did you authenticate that?
What I did?
Or are you going with the route I seeing is believing?
Let me go back. Let me use the word could be. Maybe that could certify the situation.
Okay, thank you.
Let me use the word could be. But here is what could happen.
There are sufficient evidence that prove that Mr. Weah has more than double citizenship.
It says that if you want to run for office in Liberia, you should renounce your other citizenship. File papers at the criminal code B, that's our immigration code, and file a copy of that same paper with the National Election Commission. I'm saying that this portion is not only stopping Liberians who naturalize, who may not even think about running to be president. It is a portion of law that could impact President Weah. It's a portion of law that could impact Mr. Cummings. Because let me tell you why. In 2017, when I wanted to know whether the Election Commission Chairman, Councilor Jerome Kokoya, whether Councilor Kokoya was a U.S. citizen and he had voted in the U.S. election, and therefore he was unqualified to sit as chairman of the National Election Commission at the time the alien nationality law was still in place. I went ahead and called the election the Secretary of State in New Jersey. The Secretary of State was kind enough. She answered my call and said, "Mr. Jayweh, what you need to do is to file a request for information. It will cost $25. Go online, show me the place that you need to go onto their website." I fill it out, and all of Councilor Jerome Kukoya American citizenship voting record were forwarded to me. And I sent copy to Councilor Tiawan Gonglo at the time.
Thank you. We're going to be taking the calls.
Before you take call, let me
hold on, Councilor Jensen. We have this number on the screen for those in the United States. 605-313-6004. The code is 791403. Mr. William Theo, can you announce our Liberian?
Yes, 0770-1051. Once again, 0770-1051.
Thank you. My problem with the restriction is from Article 30 of the Liberian Constitution. It reads, citizens of Liberia who meet the following qualifications are eligible to become members of the legislature. A, for the Senate have attained the age of 30, and for the House of Representatives have attained the age of 25 years. B, be domiciled in the country or constituency to be represented not less than 1 year prior to the time of the elections, and be taxpayer. So the Constitution already set the guidelines for which Liberian can run for senator and representative. Where is the legislators coming from now, using a statute to set new criteria? That's my problem. What do you think, Anthony Jensen.
The restriction is in violation of the Constitution. And to be clear on that, Article 80C that allow every Liberian citizen to register in the constituency and to vote in public elections in the constituency where they register. So there should be no restriction. The Constitution has spoken already. It said every Liberian. They didn't say a citizen or no dual citizen or whatever. It says every Liberian citizen, every Liberian citizen. So the fact that you restore, let us assume that everything that they have done is right, is in conformity of the Constitution, what have you. The fact that they did not amend Article 80C, whatever they consider as restriction is void. It doesn't hold water. And as Jayweh said, it can be challenged anytime. And I'm sure the Supreme Court will not look at this provision and say they are right to do what they did. The Constitution allows every, they didn't say some, they said every Liberian citizen. It is written here, I'm not saying it, it's written in Article 80C. Every Liberian citizen shall have the right to be registered in the constituency and to vote in public elections, and so on. So you cannot take this and match it with what the lawmakers have passed, and you say the lawmaker's voice will be stronger than
Anthony Jensen, like you said, the Constitution there in the article you quoted is very explicit. All right.
Yeah.
It did not make mention of dual citizenship.
Right.
But now we're talking dual citizenship. So what make you think, because this law has been passed, is specifically talking about people with dual citizenship,
but
putting them in a different category. But so what make you think they are not right?
No. Listen. There's two things we're talking here, right? The Constitution says every citizen. Do you want to define for what every citizen means? Whether you dual or you single, you are a citizen.
As long as
every citizen.
As long as those restrictions that stop you from being Liberian citizen are removed, you are a Liberian citizen.
Right.
So nobody should stop you.
Nobody should stop you from contesting election, except they amend this provision also.
Councillor Jensen,
yeah.
Article 30 did not say run for office, say vote.
Yeah. That's why. That's about legislators' criteria for. Sorry, my people. That's for legislators. I mean, those who want to contest for legislative position. But this one is the general criteria for those who want to contest election. So it gave...
No, it said every Liberian citizen shall have the right to be registered in a constituency and to vote in public elections.
Mm-hmm.
Voting in public election doesn't mean being voted for, right?
The fact that you register in a constituency and you have a right to vote, doesn't that automatically means the right to contest election? I don't have the time to read all of this stuff here, but there's no restriction here. That's in short. That's what I'm saying. There's no restriction as to who can contest. The fact is that every Liberian you can register. When you register to participate in the election, you can register to contest the election. Now, that Article 30 you read, even the opening phrase over there, it says what? Article 30, if you can read it quickly, just the opening phrase they have there.
It says citizens of Liberia who meet the following qualifications.
Citizens of Liberia. Citizens of Liberia. Every citizen of Liberia. So those phrases, you want to amend the Constitution, you must be very careful. Read the Constitution. Those places that have the problem, you amend them. Other than that, the Constitution is the supreme law of the land. We cannot go beyond
I agree. That. Councillor Jayweh, you are on mute if you're talking to us.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we have you.
I'm saying, again, the citation Article 30 of the Constitution that you cited clearly says why this portion of the Act is unconstitutional. Again, would Liberian challenge it before the Supreme Court? Prior to the passage of the Act, we have said that we're going to file a prohibition before the Supreme Court. If those restrictions were kept. In fact, there were more restrictions than the one we got right now. And so there were people, you could not become Chief Justice, you could not become Associate Justice, you could not become Circuit Judge, all of the other stuff that were in it. But you're correct. You can have Article 30 of the Constitution coming in conflict with the act as it is under the restrictions. So until it is challenged and struck out, it still remains the law. Now you could challenge just a portion of this act before the Supreme Court to strike it down, because as long as the act has conferred or restored the citizenship of Liberians, the legislature in the lawmaking authority lack the constitutional power to stop people who want to run to be senators and want to be representatives, and even gain the power of being Minister of Finance, the National Governor, and Minister of Defense. I mean, because it makes no sense if I cannot be Minister of Defense, can I be Minister of Health as a dual citizen? And if you say yes, then what is the difference between defense and health? Is it not in the same government? As about Minister of Education.
You can poison all the people in Liberia as health minister, but you can't take all the money.
You can't take all the money because
it's all about money.
I think they were just running to. I understand that some of the legislature. I don't know how many of you have seen the Constitutional Commission working that Mrs. Cllr set up. There are a lot of interesting things in it, and you will see that people try to basically appease their constituency by adding this restrictive clause there, but it's unconstitutional. You can pretty much have it stricken from there. So a petition before the Supreme Court.
So as it is now, with the restriction, assuming without admitting that this is done legally, if we're looking at it from the eyes of the interpretation of the Supreme Court, then and only then is it safe to say with these restrictions, Liberians political actors who are known to have obtained another citizenship are not qualified under our laws right now to run for offices, right?
Well, unless within a 1 year period, they will denounce their other country citizenship. And I think one is election, October next year, right?
October next year, so they still have some window.
So October this year, your 1 year clock start to run.
Okay.
If you did not file the paper before within a space of 1 year.
So why if those Liberians were in violation previous election, can the law hold them if one files a lawsuit against them?
No, this law is passed when the people have acted, so you cannot retroactively impact them. So they were U.S. citizen, they were president, and they are president or former president now, like you can't do anything about it.
But we didn't have dual citizenship then, though. So if they voted, if they ran for office as we know it, when they were having dual citizenship, which they should not have done anyway, why don't the law hold? And not the law now, but the Constitution, right?
Well, yeah, you can. The thing is, you can question whether what they did in office was constitutional because they in fact ran as alien. But do you have a Supreme Court that will uphold that kind of argument? Supreme Court might say that, since you have a new law that now indicates that all Liberians who naturalize in foreign countries are returning to Liberia as Liberian citizens, so the issue is now moot. That could be.
Thank you. So quickly, before our time is fast spent, let's go to what I call the next steps. So since we have this now, what's going to happen? Are we going to be allowed? What are some of the things that we're supposed to enjoy? Are we going to, for instance, out of country voting? Is it now going to be a reality? What's going to happen? I understand the government now is supposed to be writing the guidelines, the regulations. So after the passage, this is now law. What are some of the things, what are the next steps that we're supposed to be looking at now? Keep that question. We'll take a 30-second break and be right back.
Our I'll be right.
All right. God gave us this country, and that's Liberia, and that's the country we are talking about tonight. Welcome. This is Focus on Liberia. This is FOL Justice Forum. Our guests, Councillor Frederick Jayweh and Anthony James Jensen. We have Theo at controls right there at Prime FM 105.5. So, what next? We now have dual citizenship, and quickly because we are far, out of time here now. So go ahead.
And Dennis, I want us to talk about out-of-country voting. There are many rights because of time. Let's dwell on this one. If I'm a citizen of Liberia, based on the passage into law of this particular law, dual citizenship is the law of the land. I am in the United States of America. Will I be allowed to vote this coming election? And if I'm not made to vote or not allowed to vote, if my government, the government of Liberia, fail to do everything to give me the opportunity to vote, can I sue them? Because I know Guineans are voting in Liberia during Guinean election. Councillor Jayweh, let's start with you.
With the passage of the Alien Nationality Act, Liberians who honor this act can register to vote. And I say honor this act, can register to vote and vote in the 2023 election. That is left with them. That's a right that this act gave to them to be able to naturalize them. I mean, not naturalize, to be able to register and vote. They also could impress upon the government to authorize one or two commissioners or have people to deputize for the National Election Commission at the Liberian Embassy in the United States, or even Minnesota is a large place with a lot of Liberians. Philadelphia is another place. Maybe they could set up shops there to have Liberian register to become to be eligible to vote in the election. That's left with Liberian who want to vote in the 2023 election. The legal question is, are you voting as a U.S. citizen in the Liberian election? That's something that you need to determine yourself. The other thing is a political question. Will we, our government, be so sure, considering the sophistication of Liberians who might have naturalized in the United States and are now allowed to become Liberian citizens and vote in the election? Will we be comfortable to allow registration of Liberians in the United States to vote in the election when he's not sure whether the Liberians will be voting for him? All along, Mrs. Salif did not do that because she was afraid that Liberians here were too sophisticated and they could have voted her out of office. We could be thinking the same thing also, and may decide not to establish the shops that could be necessary to register. But a Liberian want to go to Liberia, register at the National Election Commission and return and vote in October 2023. That's something they need to decide. But they have the right to do so based upon the alien nationality law.
Thank you. Let me take one caller here. Caller, your name and where you calling from.
Hello.
Hello, your name and where you calling from.
My name is James. I'm calling you from New Jersey.
Go ahead, James.
Okay. I understand that most of your examples were related to people who are American citizens and, of course, Liberian as well. But what about some of us like me? I am a naturalized Norwegian, okay, and I do have a U.S. Green card. So if I got my Liberian passport, which of course will also be recognized by Norway, if I'm supposed to come to America, traveling from Liberia, then what can I come back to America?
What is this question?
What's the question? I didn't get that.
He holds U.S. green card. He's a naturalized citizen of Norway, and he goes to Liberia. What passport will he use to come to the United States? Is that the question?
Are you a U.S.
Yes.
Are you a U.S. citizen?
No, he's
not. I am a Norwegian citizen, and by the way, Norway has recognized the dual citizenship since January 2021.
So the question is, how can he come to the
How do you come to America? You
You come to America as a Liberian from Liberia with your Liberian passport. If you come into America from Norway, you can come to
Did he
America
say he had
as
a
a
green
Norwegian
card?
citizen using a Norwegian passport.
Did he say he has a green card?
Yes, he said that.
Okay, so if you came to the United States on a green card, and if your green card did not originate from the DV process, if you came in as a relative of a refugee or an alien who was once a refugee, and you gain your status, your green card status based upon you being an asylee, a derivative of an asylee, or a derivative of a refugee, meaning that the person had refugee status and you came as a result of that. Then when you came back to the United States with your green, in fact, before you leave, if that is a situation, or let me go further. Let me go further. If you are married to a U.S. citizen and got your green card based upon that, then when you're coming back to the United States, you come back, you go to Liberia using a Liberian passport with a what you call it, right to enter as an alien, because you're still an alien even though you got a green card. It does not make you a U.S. citizen. So you will come back here with you travel on your Liberian passport, and you will come back to the United States using a Liberian passport. You're able to show your green card.
Right.
You're still not a U.S. citizen. But if you were a derivative of a refugee, meaning a relative of a refugee who came to the United States based upon a refugee status, or you are a relative of an asylee, somebody who applied for asylum or granted asylum, and you then got your green card growing out of that, you must ask for a refugee travel document to get out of the country.
Right. So in other words, whatever place you came from to become a green card, when you're coming back, it is that citizenship that should reflect.
Correct. So if you got green card from the United States, you still like green. Mind you, you are a citizen of Norway, but you're not a citizen of the United States. So if you go back to Norway, you can go on your Norway passport, what's everything we should do. But if you got a green card in the United States, and you will be considered by the U.S. as still an alien with a green card. So you can travel on your Liberian passport and go out and come back in if you wish to. But other than that, you can come back with Norwegian passport to say I'm a Norwegian citizen.
Thank you. Time is fast spent. Let me read a few comments here. Emmanuel Tolo Young say greatest lesson this afternoon. Bamadi Donso doesn't think that way. He said, you people are confusing us now. If that is the case, why the essence of having dual citizenship?
Do you?
Evans Cotio, if you believe that you are a Liberian, why be afraid going to Liberia with your ECOWAS passport from transiting in an ECOWAS state? You could use the U.S. passport for more convenience and security.
Try that.
Stephen Sla, what happened as a U.S. citizen? You travel from Liberia to Ghana and something happens to you, you get into trouble in that country. What happened? Momolu say dual citizenship is not only limited to traveling. Flomo Livingstone, wow, great information, Councillor Jayweh. So these are a few of the comments. Let me see. John Maulo, America does not withdraw their citizenship from their citizens. I know people who try to turn in their U.S. citizenship and were refused. So yes, they do, as long as you inform them of the decision of your dual citizenship. Margaret is not taking things easy with Anthony here. He said, let Anthony hear this. Open your ear and hear, because you are the war-minded person on this stage. She continued, Anthony sit down in white man country and supporting war. Okay, Margaret, I don't know where you're getting your information from, but that is not true. She also said, Anthony, go down and host protests. We will beat you up well, and then people will collect money for you as justice. These are the kind of things that we get here.
This is another one. Anthony only wants to hear about war, protests, and insults. Please discuss war to have Anthony participate. Wow. Margaret might not have some love for me, Dennis.
but at least be truthful. Aliyu Samba, we are not acquiring any education from today's show. When legal questions are asked by the host, we expect legal response on the basis of the Constitution. We do not need mere opinion or advice. Give us articles under the Constitution of Liberia regarding dual citizenship. Until yet, I have not gotten any response from the lawyers to educate me. The hosts are asking the right question, but the lawyers are not giving legal responses. Instead, they are only expressing feelings. Sam Wallow, the U.S. recognizes dual citizenship. However, going forward, should you hold Liberian and U.S. citizenship and travel to Liberia as a Liberian and commit a crime, you cannot then pull your U.S. passport and say, come save me, or that you are untouchable due to your U.S. citizenship. You are on your own. Yeah, those are the few. Yeah, Telly Brown. Observers believe referendum being referred to was not done properly. In fact, it became a power play between Senator Dillon and President Weah, opposition versus government then. You say that's one reason why that did not work. Non-beam, no dual citizens require entry visa to Liberia. Or do dual citizens require entry visa to Liberia? Or what passport do dual citizens of Liberia carry? How is citizenship identified? Sam Wallow, before seeking or acquiring dual citizenship, be sure to get adequate legal advice on the pros and cons. Those are some of the comments for today, Councillor. And then this last one from Stephen say, from Joseph J. Robert, the first president of Liberia, to William R. Tubman were all American citizens. So which administration wrote these laws? Huh? He said Tubman was American citizen. I don't know. Councillor Anthony Jensen, your response to some of our comments.
Well, I think somebody posted the best we do here is to explain our understanding of the law, and those who have problem, my best advice is find an immigration lawyer, find a seasoned immigration lawyer who will tell you what the law is as to the fact or the facts that you present to a lawyer. Everybody cannot have the same issues. Like the brother from Norway, you file in pieces of papers before you are given green card. Those record that you took off to or that you sworn to, you can be aware you can be held if there's any misleading information either by your action or your deed. You just have to watch out. So the papers you file, I'm sure you have those documents with you. And I think Atty or Mr. Jayweh, Councilor Jayweh says something about that. Don't travel to the United States with your Norwegian passport if your papers you have here. The people at the port of entry don't have the time to go read papers. And those people are people of first instinct. Their decisions are found out at that port of entry. They can decide to send you back and nobody's going to ask them a question. So take that very seriously when you are traveling to any port of entry. The immigration officers over there, they are on a strict instruction. The immigration law protect them. Whatever decision they take is binding there and then. Until you can go, maybe sit down wherever they deport you or whatever they send you, is start finding lawyer and see how you can go challenge your process, all of those things. You know you don't want to go through the hearing. So do the best you can. You have documents, take those documents seriously. But when you're approaching the United States, follow other points. I mean, there's a lot of information out there. Go to YouTube, you will see some people, example, people who have traveled with 2 passports, what happened to them, and all of those stuff. You can see a lot more information out there. You can guide yourself in the process. This is just a discussion, and education is there for you, but also don't take this to be a legal advice.
Yeah, thank you. So, Aliu, contact the lawyer. Today at 7 p.m., we're going to be here with the Liberia History Channel. Our topic, the extraordinary life and death of Edward James Roy. You don't want to miss it. Presenter, Carl Family, and I'll be hosting. Well, thank you so much, Councillor Jayweh and Anthony Jensen, for the time. Theo, do we have any caller from Liberia?
No.
All right. So at this time, we're going to be wrapping this up. So, Theo, any closing comment?
Well, thank you. It's been a wonderful time, and I must admit that I've learned a lot from the 2 legal minds on the show tonight, Councilor Jayweh and Anthony Jensen. Thanks for the legal insight as per dual citizenship and all of those things associated. Thank you so much. It's been a wonderful show, and thanks to all of those who follow us online, those who were glued to the radio, even though we did not receive calls, but I'm sure they also learned a lot. And so thanks to all of you for your participation tonight.
Thank you. Councillor Jayweh, your closing comments, sir.
Well, I just want to encourage all Liberians who have heard about the passage of the Alien Nationality Act. It's the law of Liberia. You can choose to decide to get your Liberian passport. But it's also clear that you should not go. There's a feedback.
Go ahead.
That you should not try to use both passports at the same time interchangeably. It wouldn't work. You will have a problem when you return, and we don't want that to be. If you wish to vote, go to Liberian Register or ask your government to assist in establishing shops here for you to vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Anthony Jensen.
I will start with the last comment from Councillor Jayweh. I would think otherwise when it comes to the aspect of voting. I would think that those natural Liberians who are citizens of the United States should not get involved in casting votes in the 2023 election. You take a lot of risk if you do that. The second thing I want to say is that when it comes to children, we're talking about children. Under the INA Section 320, children born in the United States law are United States citizens, even though their parent may be from Liberia, but they are automatically American citizens. And the third one is the Constitution can be amended, and the procedural steps are there, and the people have a right to vote, to make those decisions. And lastly, the government can be more serious. The government can take a different approach on this citizenship law that's been passed. And my recommendation is that they can engage the U.S. government, particularly so this time. Joe Biden's administration, you have a lot of people who are loving Liberia, and I think a lot can be done in the period. Jayweh is coming to the United States. I'm assuming that nothing will stop his coming to Liberia. And so some of those things they can do is, there's nothing wrong with asking. All right, maybe he can raise the issue if you have an opportunity to sit with Biden. He can raise this issue. And the way he raised it, I'm sure there could be some consideration. And by that, Liberia can be clear. There can be no doubt on the constitutionality of the decision of lawmakers. Thank you so much for inviting me, and it was a pleasant time with all of you guys.
Thank you. Mr. Sear.
Thank you, Dennis. Thanks to Councillor Jayweh, Anthony Jensen, our man Theo Williams, reporter there based in Liberia and anchoring today at Prime FM. Thank you to folks in Radio Land who listening to us today. I'm sure you learned something from this discussion concerning dual citizenship that is now the law of the land in Liberia. Liberians across the world, I hope you learned something. I think if anything we learn, one of those things will be the fact that do not attempt to use your passport interchangeably if you have two citizenship. You can be going to Liberia as an American citizen, and you say, well, I'm a Liberian too, so I'm going to Liberia as Liberian, and then I will come back as U.S. citizenship. Nothing may happen to you. Something may happen to you. You have the two possibilities. So the best to do is to decide. Once you are a U.S. citizen going to Liberia, preferably go as a U.S. citizen, come as a U.S. citizen. When you arrive in Liberia, you can enjoy your rights as a Liberian citizen, and you should be careful with that. And I think that is a very good advice. The other thing is about the voting. You know, in as much as the law has restored Liberianness or Liberian citizenship and the rights thereof, one of which is to vote. When you want to vote, and if you ask that you participate in the voting process here in the U.S., Now there are cameras that are going to pick you up. Oh, there's a U.S. citizen there, and you're voting in the United States as a Liberian citizen. That is a risk. I'm a risk taker. I would take that risk, but I urge you not to take that risk because it might well get you into trouble. The same can be said when you go to Liberia. But Liberia, there might not be that many cameras. Maybe you can go to my village of Sastan, where the Americans might not be looking, and you will not get in trouble. I think this was a very informative discussion, and as I enjoy it, will not hesitate to get to the legal minds to have more discussion on this. I hope I wish we have had Councillor Janet. I will reach out to him to see if he can come and give his take too. We want to hear from all the lawyers on this because this is a serious matter. Thank you.
On that note, we close with our song that says, "We are all Liberians." Enjoy the song and remember, let us do whatever it takes. Because no matter whether you are Bandi, Vibe, Gola, Crew, Gribble, or Crown, we are all Liberians, and that's the message. Have a good night, and God bless you.
We are Liberians. Liberia is our home. Liberian people. Liberia.